It's another book review from me, wearing the same clothes as last time because I had 2 books to review and I was not going to waste a good hair day. This time I am reviewing Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire by GM Nair. This is hard to classify. I think I could call it a satire. Pretty sure we're going satire here. Definitely comedy. I was offered this by the author, and I didn't necessarily know that much about it. The synopsis is a little bit vague. However, what kind of got me were the reviews on the back, and it says, see what people are saying about Duckett and Dyer. And it has quotes like, I can't stop laughing, victim of Papuan laughing sickness, deceased. Or, who are you? How did you get into my office? Neil Gaiman, if asked about this book, probably. And that kind of mentality, that kind of humor is what drew me in and what made me want to read it in the first place. So this revolves around 2 roommates platonically loving each other, meaning that they're best friends. Stephanie Dyer and Michael Duckett. Did I get that right? Wait. Michael Duckett and Stephanie Dyer. Got it. Anyway, them essentially living together in a crappy flat and having boring lives until it comes out that there are ads for a Duckett and Dyer PI agency. The only problem is neither of them have ever put up those ads, and they can't figure out why they're up there. And Stephanie decides, cool, let's do this. Let's be PIs for fun. And Michael's like, no. It's very much that sort of black and white square friend versus the free spirit that kind of just flies by the seat of her pants. However, that isn't just the stereotype here. It is a crack in their foundation, more or less, that Michael is feeling very put out, that he basically has to take care of her because she seems so lackadaisical about her life. However, things quickly take a turn for the strange when they investigate their first case and somehow find themselves hopping dimensions quite accidentally. There is a lot with the multiverse in this, and they basically have to try to find their way back and find this list of missing people. Now, I don't usually go for this kind of book. I've never watched Rick and Morty. However, there was something so endearing and so on the nose about it that made it charming. Like, this book knew what it was. It knew what it was about. It knew that it was weird, but it also didn't let the weird get too much. For example, some of the universes in the multiverse they would go to looked pretty normal, looked pretty average, and then other ones would just be bat crap crazy. They would just, I don't want to describe it too much because it would really take away from the sheer what of reading it for the first time. There are some reveals that just, I was laughing out loud as I was reading. It was so funny and so outlandish. But then the next one they would jump to, it would be some semblance of real or some semblance close to their universe. And there are other Stephanies and Michaels throughout the universe. And it does, again, I mean, I've never watched it, but I get the gist of the Rick and Morty thing where, like, there are multiple Stephanies and there are multiple Michaels, and they're all a little bit different based on the different universe that they're in. And some of those Stephanies are aware of other Stephanies. I don't know if there are other Michaels aware of other Michaels, but it gets very trippy very, very fast. However, well, I mean, I didn't try to keep up with it after a while. You really just kind of got to focus on every universe has its own little scene, and they're on to the next thing. But you also see the character development between the 2 of them. As I mentioned before, Michael is very, very put out with basically taking care of Stephanie. He's the one paying the rent on their apartment. She's kind of just hanging out. And throughout this, Stephanie finally has to start stepping forward and making more decisions. And at the end, you find out that she might not have been flying by the seat of her pants as much as Michael thought she was. And I don't want to reveal it in the entirety, but I love that. How he just so assumed that because of her carefree nature, she hadn't thought anything through, but she might have actually had some insider knowledge. And that's why she was so willing to do all these crazy things and jump through blue portals. I will say, total side note, and I don't usually talk about this a lot. The cover is kind of strange. When I first first saw it. There's a bunch of little things on it, but it wasn't until after I read the book that you realize just how purposeful the cover was. Almost virtually everything on here, down to the blue that it is all colored in, is a reference to something in the story. But all put together on the front, it looks like this weird mismatch. So if you do pick this up, get this on ebook, whatever, take a look at the cover to see if you can't guess what you're about to get yourself into. The multiverse, while the weirder ones were just totally outlandish, I did like some of like the ones with a slight difference. My personal favorite, and I actually tweeted this out, was they go to one universe that's almost just like their own, and they're talking to someone else that knows about the multiverse, and they're asking like, okay, well, what's different about this universe? And someone else goes, well, our Beyonce is white. And Stephanie says, is that even legal? Like, that made me laugh. And they kept going in very expository section, but like the nature of this, you kind of needed it. And then at the end of the chapter, Stephanie goes, okay, one more question. And the other character asks one. She goes, is Jay-Z still black here? And the other character says yes. And she goes, okay then. That's fine then. Like, that little thing of how dare you have a white Beyonce. That's not legal. Just that little bit of humor sprinkled throughout it. It was all tongue-in-cheek. I will say probably the one downside for this book is it definitely is, it's definitely something that only a very certain kind of reader is going to like. I would not call this universal. You need to like weird sci-fi or satire or Rick and Morty, something like that. You would need to like the weird dimension hoppings, and maybe you're into the multiverse, but like not a serious kind of multiverse. Like it's silly multiverse where like stuff gets weird and like sci-fi and colors are weird and there's a cubist dimension. That kind of multiverse, a la, again, Rick and Morty. And I'm not trying to say that too much. Like I said, I haven't watched it, but it is the most obvious pop culture reference that you are likely to have heard of that I can liken this to. I have never read another book like this. And that's not an insult. And in general, this book kind of, I think I wrote in my notes, like, let me see if I can't find it. Yes, okay. Here I wrote, this is the weirdness you can only get from indie books, which is what I really appreciated about this is the indie book that took risks and was like, screw it, we're just going to throw all the weird stuff to the wall and see what sticks. And I don't know that I could ever see a book like this being traditionally published. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, where in, like, a Barnes & Noble this would be put. And it would probably just have to be in the general fiction because, like, I have no idea where you would put this. It's not even very stereotypical sci-fi. But one of my favorite parts it was the ending. Specifically, the epilogue that ties up a lot of the questions and the how did these detective agency ads pop up when neither of them did it. But more so than that is this book has very ominous overtone right at the very end that sets up a series beautifully. So my guess is for the series moving forward, you're going to have the book have a case for the detective agency where it might be cross multiverse and they end up having to just go multiverse to multiverse, helping to solve all of the issues that cross the universe lines. However, there also is a setup, and I'm trying not to get too spoilery, that hints at a bigger, darker force. And this is one of my favorite setups for, like, say a crime show where you have that one conflict that is going to be solved within the episode, but then there's a long, far-reaching arc sprinkled in through, like a Burn Notice, how every episode was focused on that person that needed help, but there's also a long, far-extending, but often very dark and twisted storyline happening in the background that may not have been the focal point of that story at that time, but you knew it was coming. And that's the gist I got from the end of this book, that, yeah, the next books might have lighthearted, whodunnit, or we gotta go hop to the dimension of cow people, to, I don't know, what problems do cow people have? Their horns got cut off in the middle of the night. I don't know. GM Nair is the one writing this, not me. But they also will have a darker, more sinister behind-the-scenes storyline that will keep all the books together. So obviously, you're going to need to read this one first. This won't be a series that you can just pick up from the beginning. At least I don't think. Honestly, the only thing for me that kept this from being a straight 5 stars, because it got close, was the sheer confusing aspect. I had to take everything as kind of just slightly kind of connected scenes. But that's mostly because I don't really believe in the multiverse theory all that much. I don't really see the point in a multiverse. There's never necessarily been any real evidence for it, and don't come at me with that Mandela effect nonsense. I'm not having that argument right now. Yes, I do not believe in that either. Regardless, that was probably the one thing where I had to dock a star just because it got confusing a little bit for me. However, again, if this is the kind of thing you're into and you love the multiverse theory and Rick and Morty and weird, surreal sci-fi, this would definitely be the book for you. It is also, how do I put this? It's explicitly funny. It's not a book for younger kids at all. We're making jokes about white Beyoncés. So this, despite the surreal comedy and that funny aspect, would not be good for anyone of under the age of 13, I would say. It also can get a little bit kind of gory at parts, very minor and described in such a way that it's almost comical, but not a book for children, despite the fact that it might kind of sound fun. Kind of the same way that, Rick and Morty isn't actually for children, despite being a cartoon. I enjoyed reading this so much. I was so grateful to get it. I will probably be continuing with the series. However, according to my own rules for reviewing, I only review books that I am given for free, just to make sure that everyone whose book I read either gets money or a review. I won't be reviewing it if I purchase the next in the series. However, GM Nair, if you're watching this and you want to be the next one, I'll review the next one. I have yet to review a sequel, but I got nothing against it. Shammy Solo knows she's going to give me the next one, right? I need Star Mark Vendetta. I need it. Anyway, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff if you would like to. I apologize again for being the exact same as last time, but hey, girlfriend's got to do all of her filming in one sitting. With nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.